Good evening, folks. This is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates.
Folks, this is Ron Tyler with the Emergency Management Associates coming to you live from the crossroads of the West in Lake City, Utah. The time right now is 7:05 p.m.
There's been very clear on the backside of the sun, and the earth is rotating, the sun is hitting, the earth is rotating around 3.5 miles southeast of the earth now. The solar wind is also
Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, folks all over the world. Welcome to Emergency Management Associates, coming to you from the Area Command, 392 miles west of Kitty Hawk Beach, North Carolina. As we've been doing for quite some time, we're going to start off this evening with the salute to the United States of America. We're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance, and we're then going to be favored by the nation's national anthem with the barbershop quartet from the United States Army. Would everybody please rise?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now would you make welcome, straight from Washington, D.C., the United States Army Corps Quartet.
Yeah.
Oh, say can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air,
America's Finest, United States Army Barbershop Quartet, performing at the Barbershop Quartet Convention in 2015. We appreciate them very much. God bless them, and may they return home to their families with the other service members of the United States military as soon as their hitch or their tour of duty is over. God bless them. We appreciate them ever so much, helping protect our country and as our allies as well. Thank you so much for your service, and may you all return home safely to your families when your tours of duty ends as well. God bless you all. Folks, there's something that I have been kept busy doing in regards to our weather here in North Carolina. For the past 40 minutes, we have received multiple, and I'm saying multiple, warnings of storms. Okay? Multiple warnings of storms. This was the latest right before I came on the air. Okay? And you don't even get to see the tornado that was over to the right. I somehow didn't catch it on my camera. But we had a very large round spot that should have been on the very right side of this picture. It looked like this. It actually looked like this. Then it scoped down. It went down from my window to the storm. It looked like it had gone down that far. It had not gone down to the ground, but it had gotten down about 2 inches from my location, and I saw spinning in that cloud. Then a few minutes later, right before I punched the button to go on the air, all of a sudden I saw this storm move into what I believe is Valdese, which is just east of me. And Valdese got that storm that you're seeing right in the center of your screen there in this slide. Right smack dab in the center of this slide. It was incredible and ominous, and it still looks to be that same way right now. Okay? So if you see me bail out of here and punch the off button, you'll know why I did it. Okay? There is a tremendous storm here in this area. We have gotten many warnings throughout the day of this storm coming. Okay? It's been incredible the number of times that we've gotten warnings from the National Weather Service. The latest is this. Let me give you this, and this is directly from the National Weather Service. And this happened, let me look at this here. This happened at 6:23 p.m. About 40 minutes ago, 45 minutes ago. And that's when I started wondering whether I was even going to be able to get on the air. I had actually been wondering before that. But in fact, it hasn't even been an hour. It hasn't been 40 minutes. It's been maybe 30 minutes since we got this warning. The thunderstorm that you see in that picture was located 10 miles south of Morganton, where I live, in the South Mountains and near the South Mountain State Park. South Mountain State Park is just south of here. The storm was moving northeast at 15 miles an hour. Then, as I was about to punch the button to go on the air, I saw the tornado out of my window to my left. That's when I knew we were going to possibly be in trouble. What this memo from the Weather Service said, 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts and quarter-size hail. Source radar indicated. I'm going to tell you, I saw at least one tornado there. Minor hail damage to vehicles is expected. Expect wind damage to trees and power lines. Location impact included South Mountain State Park, which is just south of me, and Pleasant Grove, which is west of that. Precautionary preparedness actions. For your protection, move to an interior room on the lowest floor of a building. Brief damaging winds will blow down trees and power lines over small areas. A brief period of large hail is also possible. Seek shelter inside an interior room. Please report damaging winds, hail, or flooding to the National Weather Service, and they've given us an 800 number to do that. Now, the number 2 story that I want to tell you, and this is very, very important, and this can also be very, very dangerous. President Biden has just ordered 3,000 more troops to UKR. 3,000 more troops to UKR. This could be bad. This could be very, very, very bad. Okay? I'm just telling you guys. I've seen so many reports today that have told me of what is going on. And these were not from the mainstream news. The mainstream news does not very rarely get anything right. Okay? So, folks, that's what we're talking about tonight. I'm going to be talking more about the White House and Mr. BJ. I hate even calling him president. I'm sorry, I hate it. I really do. I hate it. Something else happened near me during the last 72 hours. There was a North Carolina state trooper that was shot. His name was Jeffrey Dunham. Jeffrey Dunham, this man right here. He made a traffic stop. Traffic stops, even at their very best, are very dangerous. Trooper Dunham made the traffic stop, and as soon as he got out of his car, this gentleman, the suspect, pulled his weapon and shot almost point blank at Trooper Dunham. The North Carolina State Trooper Dunham was justified in fatally shooting the motorist who opened fire on the trooper along Interstate 26 near Buncombe County, Buncombe County, North Carolina. According to the county district attorney, this has been ruled a fatal fair shoot, a justified shoot. Investigators said Trooper Jeffrey Dunham was assisting a stranded motorist, or what he thought was a stranded motorist, at about 7:35 p.m. yesterday near Long Shoals Road, when the motorist pulled a weapon and shot Dunham in the chest, point blank. I'm not joking, guys. This was point blank. Now I want to show you another image, because this really got home to me. I wore bulletproof vests from the time I walked out of my house until the time I got home. I did not even take a chance on not wearing that vest. The background here is that officer's vest. Notice where this round ended up. Notice where that bullet round ended up. Lodged inside the vest, on the outside of the vest. It didn't make it all the way through. This was a .44 caliber weapon, point blank. and his vest stopped it. Now, I know for a fact that getting shot is very painful, whether or not the bullet goes into you or not. It's got knockdown power. And as you can see from this photograph, the bullet went from somewhat of a sideways direction and finally ended up inside the vest. You notice the powder burns on the vest. That is incredible that that trooper made it out of there alive. I was blown away. The Highway Patrol said the trooper's ballistic vest stopped the bullet, and indeed it did. The State Patrol allowed Dunham to return fire. That's typically what the policies are. If the suspect shoots at you, you can stop the onslaught. You can stop the onslaught, meaning the assault. But you can't go any more than that. You can use deadly force up until the time that the assault ends. Okay? Trooper Dunham was able to return fire and took out the motorist. The motorist died at the scene. Trooper Dunham is a 13-year veteran assigned to the Buncombe County, North Carolina Trooper Office. He was taken to a local hospital for some observation and later released. The motorist was identified as 57-year-old Wesley Scott Taylor of Leicester. After reviewing Highway Patrol dash cam video capturing the event involving Trooper Jeffrey Dunham and Wesley Scott Taylor, they found Trooper Dunham was legally justified to use deadly force against Taylor, who shot Dunham in the chest at close range with a .44 Magnum shell, a semi-automatic pistol. Buncombe County District Attorney Todd Williams said today, "We want to thank all of our courageous law enforcement officers and firefighters who put their lives on the line daily to ensure public safety." Okay? It was incredible to me to know that Dunham was able to escape with very, very minor injuries. Pain in his lower abdomen caused by the sucker punch of the bullet. Folks, that happens. That happens. Dunham got lucky. That is not always the case. Okay? That's not always the case. I'm thankful that the patrolman got out alive. Okay? But there's another doctor who did not. Completely separate case. This doctor lived and worked in Tennessee. He was a surgeon. He was a well-respected hand surgeon. He was gunned down in his exam office this week. And the suspect in the case is believed to be one of his patients. At around 2 p.m. Tuesday, Dr. Benjamin Mock, M-A-U-C-K, Dr. Benjamin Mock, M-A-U-C-K. He's a 43-year-old father of two who specialized in hand and elbow surgery. He was gunned down in the Campbell Clinic in Collierville, a suburb of Memphis, Tennessee. When police arrived at the scene, they discovered the suspect, later identified as Larry Pickens, attempting to flee. Some have alleged that Pickens, one of Mock's patients, had been threatening the doctor and stalking clinic staff for at least a week, though police claim that they never received reports about those threats. Suspect Pickens, and I'm calling him a suspect, okay, I'm not calling him a subject, I'm calling him a suspect, may have deliberately targeted Mock and waited for hours for the opportunity to attack him. Witnesses said that he was inside the exam room. The suspect allegedly fired at least one round from a handgun, nearly point-blank range again, before attempting to escape. Officers arrived almost immediately, and the suspect was apprehended within a matter of minutes, the gun still in his possession. Police are now trying to establish a motive for the fatal shooting of Dr. Mock. It's bad. It's bad. You can't even go to work. You can't go to your doctor's office without having something happen. It's uncanny how this works. Now, I want to talk about the cocaine that was found in the White House at the end of last week. Okay? Actually, it was a week before. I'm sorry. On the evening of July 2nd, I'm going to read this with you. On the evening of July 2nd, officers from the United States Secret Service Uniform Division found an unknown substance inside a vestibule leading to the lobby of the West Executive Avenue entrance to the White House, the West Wing. The substance was located inside a receptacle used to temporarily store electronic and personal devices prior to entering the West Wing. Following the discovery, safety closures were implemented around the White House. The response was designed to ensure that the found substance was not a chemical or a radiological material that threatened the security of the White House. As such, the substance was field tested and preliminary observations determined not to be a hazardous compound other than a hazardous drug. A hazardous drug. I continue. Testing was done, and I talked a little bit about this right after it happened, right after it was discovered. Testing was conducted by the District of Columbia Fire and Emergency Medical Services Department and indicated that the found powder was preliminarily positive for the presence of cocaine. It's not, I'm going to say this again, it's not the fire department that does the testing. Hazardous materials that is an agent of the fire department can do that. But I will bet you that it was Secret Service, the FBI, and Capitol Police that tested the powder. Okay? The substance and packaging were treated as evidence. They were entered into evidence by law enforcement and sent to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security's National Biodefense Analysis and Countermeasures Center. I know that's a mouthful. And those people also analyzed it for any biothreats. Tests were conducted at this facility and came back negative and gave formal confirmation that the substance was not biological in nature. The substance and packaging underwent further forensic testing. The substance was analyzed for its chemical composition. The packaging was not subjected to advanced fingerprint and DNA analysis. Both of these analyses were conducted by the FBI, the crime laboratory of the FBI, and given their expertise in this area and independence from the investigation. While awaiting the FBI results, the Secret Service Intelligence Unit came into action. They investigated how this item entered the White House, and the investigation was continuing until today. The investigation included a methodical review of a security system and protocols. It should be security systems and protocols. Security systems are alarms, CCTV monitors and cameras, and the Secret Service agents in the White House. Okay? This review included a backwards examination that spanned several days prior to the discovery of the substance. Several days prior to the discovery of the substance. And developed an index of several hundred individuals who may have accessed the area where the substance was found. The focal point of these actions developed a pool of known persons for comparison of forensic evidence gleaned from the FBI's analysis of the substance's packaging. Okay? In other words, the FBI treated it as a deadly substance, which cocaine is. Almost in every case of a cocaine overdose, it's deadly. Very few people survive it. But folks, this was in the people's house. This was inside the people's house. This should never have happened at all. Now, I made my observations clear right after this was found. And I told you who I thought was probably the one that was involved. And I still believe it. Now, this is a cartoon that I found, not a cartoon, but a photo that I found earlier today, saying, "Mind your own business, I work at the White House." And it shows Kermit the Frog sniffing a line of cocaine. Hunter Biden has previously acknowledged, and they arrested him. They had found videos of him and a prostitute doing drugs together, in example, cocaine. This, friends, is bad. The president's son. And yet, they slapped his hands and walked away from him. And he walked away scot-free from everything that had happened, threatening a Chinese official to pay him and his daddy $5 million each. And all of a sudden, 3 days later, they are $5 million rich, each of them. Hunter Biden was involved in UKR. Bad news. Hunter Biden has been involved with our enemies, including Russia. He was facing 92 years in prison for his involvement in everything that they caught him with. They slapped his hands and he walked away because he is the president's son. Now, I have real problems with this, as you know. No, I don't do drugs. I never have, never will. I don't smoke. I don't drink, and I don't fool around. I have issues with those people that do. For some things, I have to turn my head and say, oh, I'm sorry this happened, and just walk away. Within 1 week, probably not even 1 week, after Hunter Biden had appeared before a judge and many other witnesses and had evidence pressed against him, got his hand slapped and walked away with no charges pending. I believe it was less than a week later that all of a sudden this cocaine was found in the West Wing, where Hunter had been. And yes, I understand that a lot of other people had been there as well. Folks, they said that they did not run any fingerprint studies on the bag. They did not run any DNA studies. I'm asking why. I have lifted fingerprints off of baggies before. From small Ziploc baggies to large bags. I have lifted many fingerprints in my day. I'm considered a fingerprint expert. I used to run fingerprints at least once a week at my police department. I'm very good at it. Why did they not pull any evidence off that baggie? And if they did, why are they denying doing it? Okay? They say they have no suspects, no known suspects in finding this baggie of cocaine. I have quite a few suspects, one after the other, pointing right over at Hunter Biden. Okay? Surgery says because they knew it already. Yes, I agree. I believe they did know it. But because he is the president's son, he gets slapped on the wrist. This man is a grown adult. A grown adult in his 40s. And yet, during the time that the DOJ was trying to prosecute him for use of drugs and prostitution and everything else, Joe Biden was questioned by a member of the media about his son. And he says, "Yo, man, don't pick on my kids. I love both my daughter and my son." Well, Joe, Mr. B or Mr. JB, I love my kids too. But dadgummit, if they were in possession of narcotics, if they had them, and there was evidence against them, I would be the first person to tell you, lock them up. Lock them up. My dear friend Laura Marie is here in the chat. She and I have been friends for a very long time. She says, and he has a kid. Yes, he does. He had sex with a female and then walked away from her. And she gave birth to a daughter. And this wonderful president of ours doesn't even acknowledge her. In no way does he acknowledge her. Even the courts have told Hunter Biden to pay child support. And then he tells the child support authorities and the courts in Arkansas, I think it was, oh, I don't have any money. I'm a poor man. I don't have enough money to even live. And right after that, he went to Daddy's house in Delaware and stayed for a couple days. Then after that, he got himself a hotel room. Oh yeah, he has money. And yes, the courts did find out. And he has to pay child support. Folks, I have a lot of problems with this. He gets a woman pregnant, has a child, then denies it. There's DNA evidence to prove that it's his kid, his daughter. Then he says he doesn't have enough money to pay child support. He claims he is poor. Folks, I know what poor is. Most of us do. When I was first a federal police officer, I'm talking a federal police officer in San Diego. High-priced town, right? Oh yeah. I began my police career at just over $13 an hour. $13 an hour. And yes, I paid half of my salary to my ex-wife, who made $60,000 a year. And she made well over that by the time my youngest was raised and was 18. And at that point in time, I had been paying $800 a month for one child. And Hunter said he was too poor? Really? Okay. Renee Steffi's in the chat said this could apply to poor decisions also. Yes, it was. Poor decisions. Oh yeah. And yet he gets off scot-free, other than having to pay child support out of his well-established bank accounts, in plural. Okay? Incredible, guys. Just seemingly incredible. I can't hardly even believe it myself. Okay? I have a hard time believing it myself. It's crazy. It literally is nuts. I've been through this for weeks and months now with Biden, Hunter Biden. I understand what he's gone through, being in the public eye. He wanted to be in the public eye. He did everything he possibly could to be in the public eye, hanging out with Chinese diplomats, diplomats from the UKR and Russia. He did everything he possibly could to hang out with diplomats. And yet he just skips the luxury of being rich. He skips. And this is not the first time I've seen it. That any of us have seen this kind of behavior. It happens all of the time. Anyway, guys, I'm going to leave that. Yes, I'm pretty PO'd about it. Yes, he is a suspect, but they will never name him because of who he is, DNA-wise. Folks, let's trip over to the Pacific Northwest. I've spent a good deal of time today pulling information on tremors and earthquakes all over the Pacific Northwest. A lot. Literally a lot. I want to start over at Edison Elementary School in Washington. Edison Elementary School in Washington. Why am I pulling this information for you? Why did I do it? Look at the tremors here. Yes, folks, these are slow slip events. Look at all of these tremors. Yes, we have some minor 2.0 earthquakes in here too. But I wanted to make a point. Look at all these slow slip tremors. And it's not just here. How about Friday Harbor? Friday Harbor, guys. This is also very interesting. Okay? Yes, I have seen this over and over and over again. I've analyzed this over and over and over again. I am going to show you a lot of tremors tonight because the agency that puts out the tremor map has basically said that there are no tremors, no slow slip events at all. Okay? I want to show you that slide as well, because I had some real issues with this literally all day long. I said, naturally, we're going to have a slow slip event. That's going to happen. It happens all the time. But the agencies know that there's never just one day when there's no slow slip events. Okay? So folks, what I'm going to show you now is the tremor map. Okay? I've already showed you 2 slides, showing you on just those 2 slides alone that we probably had at least 50 to 75 slow slip events during the past 24 hours in the Pacific Northwest. So let me show you the slow slip map. Maybe you'll get something more out of this after you see it. Look at this. We go up to Vancouver Island. And no, there's nothing north of here on the Vancouver Island. There's nothing over in British Columbia at all. There's nothing in Washington. There's nothing in Oregon. And folks, there's nothing in California. None. 0 zip. No slow slips at all that are listed here. What's the problem? Let's go down into Warrenton, Oregon. This is the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office. I want to show you this. Let me reduce this in size a little bit so you'll understand, so you can all see this. Okay? This is a seismogram coming from the Clatsop County Sheriff's Office. They have a seismograph there that put this out. The seismograph starts at 5 o'clock yesterday, or actually 4 p.m. yesterday afternoon. Look at the tremors all over yesterday evening. And that's minor compared to what happened today. Look at this. There's about 35, by last count, 35 tremors here. Okay? 35 tremors. Now, between those two other slides and this is showing you nearly 100 slow slip events. But it doesn't stop there. Okay? I showed you Friday Harbor. How about Grays Harbor, Washington? Look at this. Slow slip events and even some earthquakes happen here at Friday Harbor, Washington. Okay? The earthquakes happened just after 11:30 last night. And these were at least 3.0 to 3.5 earthquakes. Small earthquakes. And look at all those slow slip events. All these tremors that allegedly the agency doesn't want us to see. And I'm going on. How about Guermas Island, Washington? Look at all these. Look at all these. There's over 50 slow slip events on this seismogram alone. Now we're probably coming pretty close to 200 slow slip events. Guermas Island, Washington here. Then I'm going to go over to Lewis and Clark Interpretive Center. Look at this. Here's even more. And earthquakes to boot. Anything longer here, any line longer here than 1.5 inches is an earthquake. Yet there's plenty of other tremors here as well. This is on the coast. Both USGS and the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network don't show any earthquakes at all, let alone slow slip events. None. Okay, how about Loomy Island, Washington? Look at this. Even Loomy Island has some tremors, and yes, they had a 2.8 magnitude earthquake down here at the bottom today. Loomy Island here. All these are on the coast. I wanted to make sure that everybody understood where they came from. Now I'm going to go over here into the Puget Sound area. Megler Island, Washington. Megler, Washington. It's right there in the Puget Sound area. Okay? Why am I going here? Because, folks, guess what? Look at this. Not only did we have slow slip events, we have had a lot of earthquakes, tremors and earthquakes here. And you notice on these lines here, these horizontal lines, it's not just tremors and earthquakes. It's the advance of magma beneath the surface. No, this is not a volcano, guys. This is magma coming in from the North Pacific Ocean, coming into Washington, probably directly over to Mount Rainier. Okay? I wanted to make sure you saw this. This is important. This is the Puget Sound area, guys. The Puget Sound. Look at all this energy here. Minor earthquakes and tremors here. All over the place. Okay? Let's continue. I have gone over to Orcas Island Airport, East Sound, Washington. Look at this. Not only do we have tremors, but we have some good-sized earthquakes, meaning 3.4, 3.5 earthquake there, up at the top. Look at that earthquake, guys. A 3.4, 3.5 earthquake, and nobody told anybody about it. The only way you're going to find out that it happened, it's on the data. It's on the seismograph, sitting out there for everybody to see. A 3.5 earthquake, it didn't make it to the USGS map, it didn't make it over to the PNSN map either. But look at these other tremors as well. Slow sub events. But we're not supposed to see this. We're just supposed to believe what they tell us. I want to go over to Seaside, Oregon. This is another example down in Oregon. So far, I've shown you a lot of energy, seismic energy, in Washington. Look at this. There's about 122 tremors here. 122 tremors and a couple minor earthquakes. Yes, I went and counted each and every one of them. So now I think we're approaching about 500 slow slip events. This is along the coast. This is along the coast. And I did not even get down to southern Oregon yet, where we've had massive amount of slow slip earthquakes down just north of the California border. Okay? Seaside, Oregon. How about Willapa Harbor Golf Course? Let's look at this. Look at this. 32 earthquakes and tremors here. 32 earthquakes and tremors here at Willapa Harbor Golf Course in Washington. That's typical here. That is very typical of what we see here at Willapa Harbor. I'm just looking for this one place specifically that's near Willapa Harbor Golf Course. I thought I downloaded that as well. Well, maybe I didn't. Okay? But that's okay. How about the law enforcement unit? Okay? This is a law enforcement unit for Fish and Game for Washington State. This is also about 140 tremors here. And yes, there are a couple earthquakes here as well. This will tell you, beyond a shadow of a doubt, what is actually going on and what they want us to see, which is nothing. Heaven forbid that we know the truth. Folks, we have a Cascadia event coming. I've shown you swarms of slow slip events. I've shown you swarms of earthquakes, not just tremors. I think this is very important because we know where we see hundreds, let's start this way, where we see a cache of tremors or earthquakes, 2 or 3, 4, 5. When we see 20, when we see 50, when we see 75, when we see 100 or more, we know for a fact that a much larger earthquake is going to come of it. We've seen this for years now. I personally have put in over 4 years working out seismic energy, looking at all the data. Slow slip quakes, slow slip tremors propagate larger, shallower earthquakes. And it's coming. It's coming. Whether it be a Cascadia major event, meaning a 7, an 8, or a 9.0 event, or whether it's another 6.0, 6.5, 6.8 event. You folks know as well as I do, these areas, because people are ill prepared, are going to be destroyed. There are a lot of homes and buildings up and down the entire West Coast. I'm talking California too. I've seen it. I've traveled the coast, but I didn't get into Washington. I've been up into southern Oregon, but I have not been into Washington. But I know for a fact from pictures that you all have sent me and information that you've given me that I have followed up on, there are plenty of older homes and businesses, and I'm talking 50, 60, 75, and possibly over 100 years old, that will be destroyed from a 6.5, a 6.8, and certainly a 7.08, 9, a 10.0 magnitude earthquake, a Cascadia event. We know they're going to be destroyed. Roads are going to be destroyed. Nobody's going to be able to go anywhere. The only way you can get anywhere after one of these major events, one, you have a four-wheel drive. Because highways, roadways are going to be destroyed. The only way you're going to get through it is to have a four-wheel drive vehicle, a motorcycle, a bicycle possibly. A car? No way. No way. Just like those horse and buggy days down in and around the New Madrid Fault area, those kind of roadways exist in Washington, Oregon, California, Idaho. Yeah, they do. The bad thing is those horse and buggy trails are now 2-lane blacktop. And those horse and buggy trails are not going to be used to having great big holes in those roadways, that most people will not be able to get through it. Okay? I'm trying to give you the worst case scenario because it may even be worse than this. Okay? It's one event not having the agency tell us the truth, but it's a whole different story when the agency does give us some information and withholds the rest. Okay? Yes, I have problems with that as well. Yeah, you might say I'm a man with problems. And that's okay. That's okay. I see some of you are worried about me, talking about areas around where I live, talking about hotspots on the NASA FIRMS map. East of Hickory. Hickory is one of the larger towns east of me. Actually, it's a little bit north as well. Hickory is a town of maybe 40,000 people. It's got a shopping mall. It's got several movie theaters. It's got every kind of restaurant you could ever want to eat in. It's got hotels that Morganton doesn't have. Yes, Morganton has some hotels, but nothing like Hickory. Okay? And south of St. Stephen's, North Carolina, looks fairly large. Okay? There are magma guys. There are magma chambers, magma pathways, literally all over the United States. Yes, we have volcanoes here in North Carolina, volcanoes in Virginia, volcanoes over in South Carolina, Tennessee, literally all over. Okay? They're literally everywhere, guys. It's amazing what I found here. And yet, I still think this is somewhat safer than other places. Again, safety is a relative word. What are you willing to give up if you were to be caught in an event? What are you willing to deal with when you were caught during or after an event? Safety is a relative word. Very much a relative word. Guys, it's incredible what I've seen. I've been putting information out for over 4 years now. I've seen people walk away, turn their back on it. I've seen an increase in people coming to this channel and subscribing to this channel. By the way, we now have over 1,431 subscribers here, which is wonderful. We're growing the Emergency Management Associates family. I'm happy about that. But right now, the majority of the time, we can't even get 1,000 viewers to watch this channel. Upwards of mid-range 800s, and that's wonderful. I'm not knocking it. But folks, we are going to be in one of the direst circumstances that one can think of very soon, and yet nobody cares about their safety. Nobody cares about their security. Nobody cares about their well-being. I talked to Surgery. Surgery's here in the chat room tonight. I talked to him seriously about emergency preparedness earlier today. And yes, we agree. Some people are going to have to take it the hard way, with nothing. There are going to be beggars out there on the street. There are going to be people without that turn into gangs because they did not pay attention. And they'll go knocking on your door and my door, bursting into our homes and stealing everything they can get their hands on. And what they didn't get their hands on the first time, they'll come back for everything at some point in time. So we have to be prepared to protect what we have. We have to know what's going on. Now, we've been talking about the Cascadia earthquake for a very long time. Just a few weeks back, I spent 2 or 3 days, talking specifically about what would happen before, during, and after a Cascadia megathrust earthquake event. For those of you that didn't see it, you can go back and scroll through all the videos that we have done, and where you can see Cascadia in the title, or Emergency Preparedness in the title, or Cascadia megathrust earthquake in the title, you can well bet that that program is one of the special programs that we put together for all of you to know what's going on, and thereby being better prepared for what's happening. But here at the Washington Department of Fish and Game, you see the slow slip in a big way. Well over 100 slow slip events and some earthquakes along the coast of Washington State. What does that mean? Again, when we have these slow slips, the areas where we're getting significant numbers of slow slip tremor events is where there's going to be a much larger, more shallow earthquake. And it's going to happen. I pray that it doesn't hurt you. That's where I'm at. That's where I'm at. Now, I want to show you something. Thunderbird signs, Diana says, if magma is rising, will it not evaporate the water? To a certain extent, yes. To a certain extent, yes, it will. Why? Because magma is upwards of 2,000 to 5,000 degrees Fahrenheit, which is off the charts Celsius. I don't want to even think about how hot it is Celsius. Well beyond the point of survival. Yes, magma evaporates water. We know that for a fact because there was a water lake in the Holly Mau Mau crater at Kilauea Volcano. And that was as late as the beginning of last year. Then magma was deep beneath the surface of that lake and was heating up the lake. The lake was at 200 to 300 degrees most of the time because of the magma down underneath the rubble of that volcano. Then, last year, another eruption started. And that 700-foot deep lake inside the Kilauea volcano crater, the magma that came down from the northwest and the south magma holes or magma supply channels came down there and hit that water. It was so hot that the water evaporated. 700 feet deep lava, or not lava, but a water lake inside the Holly Mau Mau crater. Well, yeah, it will evaporate that much water. We've seen that happen even over at 1980 when Mount St. Helens first erupted. There were some glaciers at the top of Mount St. Helens, and it blew out those glaciers. The eruption took out the side of that volcano, and the top collapsed to a certain extent. It blew off about 300 feet from the top of that mountain. The glaciers went away because the heat of the eruption evaporated those glaciers, and now there's snow at the top of Mount St. Helens again. There's snow and glacier at the top of Mount Rainier, and Mount Rainier has been steaming for a very, very long time. Steaming. How do we know that? Because we've seen the steam clouds. We've seen steam clouds. Now, I put up a picture here. This is an actual picture that I obtained from Baker Volcano today. The Mount Baker Volcano today. This has been this way for weeks now. The Pacific Northwest Seismic Network has shut down the seismograms. I don't think they've shut off the seismographs, however, but they have shut down the seismograms, so we can't see it. We do not know what's going on at Mount Baker. It's shut down. Every one of them. The main MBW is shut down. It's showing this. I went over to Shuxon. The same thing. I went over to the Puget Sound Lower Baker Lake Reservoir. That seismogram shut down, and this was up. The upper reservoir, the same thing. They're not showing any seismograms showing us what Mount Baker's doing. None. This is the way it's been for months. Mount Baker, folks, if you have not been with this program very long, Mount Baker is just south of the Canadian border in Washington State. Mount Baker has been steaming for years now. Several years. Great big huge steam clouds hanging over the summit of Mount Baker. We have seen earthquakes hitting Mount Baker. Not just tremors, but earthquakes. 2s and 3s all the time at Mount Baker. Yet now for months we've had no data because the Pacific Northwest Seismic Organization, Seismic Network, doesn't want us to know. Plain and simple, they don't want us to know. Okay? Mount Baker's down. So I went over to Mount Constitution, which is about 40 miles to the southwest from Mount Baker. This is what I found at Mount Constitution. Okay? The same thing. Tremors, guys. Tremors and earthquakes at Mount Constitution. Now, some of these very thin lines are not earthquakes. Some of these thin lines are steam signatures. Yes, we see these thin lines with a dot in the middle of them. Yes, those are earthquakes, but not all of them are. We have some longer lines without any dot in the middle. Those are steam signatures. Mount Constitution is steaming just like Mount Baker is. Yet they are not showing it. This is the first substantive seismogram we've seen about Constitution in a very long time, because Pacific Northwest Seismic Network shut that down too. They shut it down. And I just happened to go there this afternoon, and I thought, oh gee, we got to see this. Mount Constitution, when they used to shut down Mount Baker seismograms, they kept up Mount Constitution's. Mount Constitution is so close to Mount Baker, we could use it as a substitute for Mount Baker. What's happening at Mount Constitution is happening at Mount Baker. What's happening at Mount Baker is also happening at Mount Constitution. In every case, we found that to be the truth. Okay? Then they started shutting off Mount Constitution because they caught on to us. Now they have shut down Mount Baker seismograms again. Who knows how long this kind of crap is going to continue? We don't know. We don't know. Let's go south from Constitution and Baker to go over to Glacier Peak. Glacier Peak is about 40 miles north of Mount Rainier. Look what we have going here at Glacier Peak. Glacier Peak, for right now at least, until they put up the other 5 seismographs, still has earthquakes. It still has tremors. It also has steam events. But again, rarely do we ever see a steam signature here at Glacier Peak. Okay? Up at the top on the blue and the red lines here, 2 separate places, 2 distinct events. We have tremor activity, probably 1.4, 1.5 tremors. Then we have something else, okay? Yes, we've seen this before at other volcanoes. This is Glacier Peak, guys. What do we usually see when we have a sideways rectangle with some lines out to the right? What is that usually see? Okay? What does it mean? What does it mean when we see that happen? Okay? This is a magma churn signal. This is definitely a magma churn signal. Magma churn signals are typically 23 to 24 lines high. This one is far from that. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 lines high. 1/5. Basically 1/5 of the size of the magma churn signal, which means the rest of this seismogram is gobbledygook. Okay? You'd have to multiply 5 times whatever signature you have here, whether it's an earthquake, a tremor, whatever it is. You would have to multiply that, or seemingly multiply it 5 times that. So these tremors here are actually probably close to a 3.0 earthquake, because the people at Pacific Northwest Seismic Network have turned down the seismogram, turned the seismograph nearly off. It's not hardly giving us any decent data, because they have turned the seismograph basically off. Look at that. 1 magma churn signal and what appears to be 2 tremors. That if we multiply that times 5, those tremors are going to be 3.0 earthquakes. Small earthquakes, but still earthquakes. Felt earthquakes. Felt. Okay? There's basically one other thing that I would like to show you. Okay? Let's move this up. See this earthquake right here? It's a very thin line with a dot in it. That is an earthquake. And seemingly, this would normally be about a 3.0, 3.5 earthquake. So this was a larger earthquake than that. Probably approaching a 5.0 earthquake here at Glacier Peak. Since I've been doing this seismic research over 4 years now, I've never seen a 3.5. I've never seen a 4.0, and I've never seen a 5. This may be a 5.0 large earthquake at Glacier Peak. Okay? You see other tiny tremors over here on this seismogram. Yes, folks, we are having earthquakes at Glacier Peak, but the agency, in their infinite wisdom, doesn't want us to know about it. This is a volcano. This volcano has known to be very dangerous. Glacier Peak has been known to be a very dangerous volcano. And yet, they don't want anybody to know about it either. They have 5 seismographs that they want to place up here. If we can get the Environmental Coalition to go along with it. Because heaven forbid we disturb a badger that's living on Glacier Peak. Not just badgers, but all kinds of other small animals, like the marlet? Marpet? I can't remember what the animal's called. But folks, this is serious. The Environmental Coalition doesn't want us to have seismographs on the mountain because we might disturb the marlet. The marlet. Or any other animal that's there. Because once the seismograph has been installed, scientists have to go up there once a year and check on them to make sure they're going to do okay. Or recalibrate them, or whatever. And that might disturb a marmot that's sitting on top of this mountain. Okay? It's a sad thing, but it is true. It's very true. Let's drop down now to Mount Rainier. Mount Rainier has been very busy. Today I'm going to stick with the not the USGS, but the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network seismograms. Okay? Look at this. This, folks, is Mount Rainier, Camp Sherman. This is over on the north flank of Mount Rainier. Okay? Look what we're seeing. We're seeing a lot of tremors here, right? The top of this seismogram here started at 5 p.m. yesterday and went throughout the day and night and into this afternoon. Up at the top of this, let me pull this over here and open it up so you can see it. Guess what, guys? We had an earthquake at Mount Rainier. No, folks, they did not show it on the USGS map. But you can plainly see that we had a good-sized earthquake here. This is at least a 3.5 magnitude earthquake. At least a 3.5 magnitude earthquake. What else is here? Yes, we have some minor tremors. We have some minor earthquakes, 2.0 earthquakes. But what is that red sideways rectangle here? It's another magma churn signal. Superheated magma causes these magma churn signals to happen. Okay? So this superheated magma churn signal can tell us some things. Again, they're typically 23, 24 lines high. Let's find out how strong this magma churn signal is. We start at the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. It's 9 lines high. It's about 46% of real world. Almost half of what it should be. Yeah, it should be 100%, but we'll never see that because the agencies don't want us to see truth. So, folks, any activity that we see on this seismogram, it's going to be wrong. Because again, we'd have to multiply at least 2.25 times the size of these events before we have what would be real in real world. Okay? So this blue earthquake here on the right hand side top, instead of being a 3.5, now we're talking another 5.0, 5.3 magnitude earthquake. A large earthquake at Glacier Peak, and another one here at Mount Rainier. That's 2 earthquakes, 5.0 or larger, at 2 separate and distinct volcanoes in Washington State. Does that bother anybody? Does this bother anybody to know that there are 2 volcanoes here in northern Washington that had a 5.0 large earthquake hit today? That should bother a lot of people. What have we been saying about large earthquakes? What have we been saying about 2 4.5 or larger earthquakes hitting in the Cascade Mountain range? We said a long time ago that that might be the signal to where we might have a 2-week time period before the Cascadia megathrust earthquake would hit. Okay? Terry, a few weeks back, when I was giving you the information about the Cascadia magnitude earthquake, megathrust earthquake, he came and put some notes in one of the comments beneath one of my videos, which said, if you remember, that we had 2 5.0 earthquakes at Lake Alamanor when that lake started getting hit. And by the way, it's still getting hit with 2.0s, 3.0 earthquakes every day. Every day. But Terry said back then, okay, about 2 months ago, that those earthquakes counted as being in the Cascade Mountain range. And 2 weeks have passed since those earthquakes hit. So they didn't count. I don't believe they counted towards a Cascadia earthquake. I believe it was 2/4 south and east. I could be wrong. That's what I believe. Now we're seeing what could possibly be a large earthquake. Nonetheless, it was at least a 4.5 here at Mount Rainier, and at least a 4.0, 4.5, if not a 5.0 at Glacier Peak. This also qualifies as a large earthquake. And of course, we have this magma signal here that indicates how far they've turned this machine down. It's less than half of real world. happen real world. But we're still seeing large earthquakes, aren't we? Like this one here. This one here, guys, this was after 5:40 a.m. this morning. Approximately 5:40 a.m. this morning, we had a 5.0 earthquake here at Mount Rainier. Not just last night, but this morning. Did anybody feel any shaking if you lived near Mount Rainier? Please, guys, let me know. Did you feel any good shaking around Mount Rainier in the last 24 hours? Last night and this morning. It's here. You can see it. You can see it. And you can see other earthquakes here as well. Okay, look at this. And then another 5.0 at 6:40 this morning. So we had one at 5:40, well, 5:43, and this one here at 6:40 this morning. And all these other tremors here all day long. And this I want to say maybe a 2.5, 3.0 earthquake this afternoon. It was on the black line. It was on the black line after 12 noon. Okay, I'm looking at this. This is about 12:10 p.m. 12:10 p.m. this afternoon. Okay, looking for a 3.0 earthquake right there. Earthquakes are happening. They're definitely happening. Is anybody even paying attention? Does anybody really care? Because I'm wondering. I'm really wondering. Are you keeping on topic with what I'm talking about tonight? I am showing you some real issues here. That if you live in this area, you should be very concerned. You should be very worried. Let's leave Mount Rainier. I can show you another one. But we can leave Mount Rainier for right now. Let's go down to Mount St. Helens. I wanted to talk about Mount St. Helens for quite some time now. Folks, this is East Dome, Mount St. Helens today. East Dome, Mount St. Helens today. Actually, it's not. This is September lobe. Same place. Okay? This is another seismograph that's sitting on top of the plug of the volcano. It's called September lobe. Look what we're looking at. Okay? We have not had a seismogram come from the Pacific Northwest Seismic Network here at September lobe in quite some time. And this is good data. This is good data. Yes, you need to multiply it times 4, but it's at least decent data. It's clear. It's clear. We're seeing earthquakes. Okay? You can see it here. Okay? Over on the left-hand side. Okay? Let's go 4, 5, 6. Let's see. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, just after midnight. 12:02 this morning here at Mount St. Helens. We had at least a 4.0 earthquake. A moderate 4.0 earthquake here at Mount St. Helens. I don't remember ever seeing that in the time that I've been doing this program. We've had 2s and 3s, but never a 4.0 earthquake. And that's what this one is. Midnight this morning, or late last night. 2 minutes after midnight. Okay? Look at these other tremors here as well. Mount St. Helens has been knocked around, hasn't it? Oh, it surely has. Let me show you one other seismogram here at September Lobe on Mount St. Helens. Folks, this is the VLF frequency. Okay? The September Lobe seismograph is a multi-channel, I think 5-channel seismograph. And we can pull all kinds of information from this particular seismograph. Look at this seismogram. Okay? This came to us here, all this activity. These wavy lines are what they call VLF waves. VLF waves are generated by magma coming into the volcano, this at Mount St. Helens. Look at all this magma coming into Mount St. Helens. And yet, the other seismogram did not show it. It showed a few things going on, for example, that 4.0 earthquake. But it didn't show much of anything going on because that seismograph had been turned way down. But we're actually seeing what happened at Mount St. Helens yesterday evening and last night. And it stretched into after 4 o'clock this morning. It started calming down some, but up until 4 o'clock this morning, it was wild. A lot of magma coming into this magma chamber at Mount St. Helens. Okay? Look at that. Look at that. That's completely insane. I haven't seen this much magma at any volcano yet. Almost, but not yet. I've seen Mount Hood. Yes, there is a seismograph at Mount Hood that puts out multiple channels. And so we sometimes can pull that channel and look at the magma that's coming into Mount Hood. We've had one at Glacier Peak. No, we didn't. Glacier Peak is a single channel. Mount Rainier. Okay? And at Shuxon and Mount Baker. Okay? But we haven't seen this much magma activity at a volcano in a very long time. Mount St. Helens is getting ready to go ahead. Okay? Mount St. Helens is getting ready to erupt again. I'm showing you the data. I'm showing you the data. Seismologists from Pacific Northwest Seismic Network from the University of Washington should be putting out at least an advisory. There are enough earthquakes happening at Mount St. Helens that they should be putting out an advisory for a possible eruption. Okay? You can see it. You can definitely see it. What is going on at Mount Hood? Okay? Let me show you Timberline. Look at this. Again, I haven't seen this much activity at Mount Hood Timberline in the last 4 years. 2 years ago, I think in September, October, it'll be 2 years since the United States Geological Survey at Mount Hood put up an advisory of a possible eruption at Mount Hood when there was 129 earthquakes and tremors at Mount Hood on a Sunday. On a Sunday. Look what we're seeing today. This is Timberline. This is at one of the lower elevations at Mount Hood. The one above it is Palmer Lift, a ski resort on Mount Hood. This, folks, is definitely showing us that Mount Hood may be getting ready again. Why are they not saying anything about this? Look at the earthquakes here. These are substantial. These are just not minor, tiny little tremors. This is substantial seismic activity here. Okay? This is just one seismograph. Let's look at another. Folks, this is Palmer Lift. Do you think there's a problem here at Mount Hood? Oh, heck yes. Absolutely yes. Look at this. The top of this seismogram was yesterday afternoon, evening. Okay? We see a bunch of tremors there, don't we? All kinds of tremors. And we see some magma coming into the magma chamber. Okay? The thicker lines equals more magma. It works like this. Less magma going into more magma and getting less again. Okay? It's called a magma pulse signal. A magma pulse signal. We see several lines here with a lot of magma. And that magma is coming into the magma chamber of this volcano, and we see vertical lines going through those magma lines. Why? Because the magma is coming into the magma chamber and it's fracturing rock when it comes in. Magma is coming in under pressure, a lot of pressure. And when it's coming into the volcano, it's fracturing rock inside the volcano, causing tremors and earthquakes. Look at the bottom of this seismogram. Look at the bottom of this seismogram. I have never seen this at Mount Hood. Not now, not ever. I haven't seen it at all at Mount Hood. I have seen this at Studebaker Ridge, just north of Mount St. Helens. I've seen it there. We saw it at Mount Baker. We've seen it at Mount Baker and other places as well. But we've never had this at Mount Hood before. This is a lot of energy. This constitutes a lot of seismic activity caused by magma at this volcano. Is everybody getting this? Is everybody getting this? Tomas says, Michael McKinney, depends on quake's location. I think that this is also real, more quakes in the western coast of California. The more threat for Mount Lassen, Mount Shasta eruption. That's going to happen too. That's going to happen too. Occasionally I'm very concerned about Shasta and Lassen. I'm going to show you those in a minute. But you need to understand this. These volcanoes are getting to the point of erupting. There's no doubt about what we're seeing here. There's no doubt about what we're seeing here. Now I showed you the one seismogram at Mount Hood here. Okay? What is this? This is another channel on that same seismograph. This shows magma coming into the magma chamber. You see the wavy lines here? This is magma coming into the magma chamber. Okay? It's not heavy like we saw at Mount St. Helens. But we're still seeing magma coming in. Look at the bottom of this. Just like the other channel at Mount Hood, we're seeing a lot of tremors happening. Tremors and minor earthquakes hitting Mount Hood. Literally, folks, I'm very serious about this, literally all day long. I just enlarge this so you can see what I'm talking about. Let me put it over to the left and enlarge this some more so you can see the time element here. Okay? This started at just about 6 a.m. today. And it went until I pulled the seismogram. Okay? I pulled the seismogram about 2:45 p.m. this afternoon. So we're definitely seeing a lot of activity at Mount Hood. A ton of activity at Mount Hood. Should we be concerned? Oh yeah. Anybody living in, near, or around Mount Hood should very seriously consider making sure that they have an emergency preparedness plan and making sure they have a preparedness kit. Okay? Because you're not going to be wanting to stay at your home near this mountain when it blows. Okay? You're not going to do that. You're going to want to get out of town. You need a plan about what you're going to do and where you're going to go. You need to have goods with you. Clothes, footwear, hats, food, clothing, and make sure you have a full tank of gas in your car. That's minimum. Mount Hood's not the only mountain that's moving. Okay? I've been watching this whole thing all day long. Okay? Oh, darn it. I know for a fact I put up information about Sisters Volcano. Okay, I'm just going to go off the top of my head. Okay? I'm going to go off the top of my head because I know what I did and what I saw. Okay? I saw Sisters Volcano with a lot of activity last night and this morning. Sisters Volcano is not just one volcano, it's three. It's three volcanoes in north central Oregon. Sisters Volcano. Also, there's another one, Newberry Volcano. Newberry Volcano is not as active as Sisters or Mount Hood, but it is still active and is showing signs of greater activity. Okay? Then I drop down to Bachelor. Bachelor is not showing anything because about 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, they turned it off. Mount Bachelor seismogram is not showing squat. They turned that seismogram off. Okay? Then we go down to Crater Lake, south central Oregon. Crater Lake is very busy. Very busy. We have 3 seismograms that are active there. Cleetwood Cove, Mount Scott. Cleetwood Cove is on the south or the northeast side of Crater Lake. We have Mount Scott that's on the southeast side of Crater Lake, and it's somewhat active. It's not showing all the activity it could because I think they have that seismograph also turned down. Way too far. But there's one other one. There's actually 4 seismographs at that location. But there's one other one that I think we need to pay attention to. It's called Bunkhouse. Crater Lake Bunkhouse. Okay? CLBH. If you have an opportunity, go and watch it. Go and look at it. Okay? It's pretty active as well. Cleetwood Cove and the Bunkhouse seismograms are worth looking at. It's busy. Now I know for a fact I pulled information from Mount Shasta. For the first time I found 2 seismograms that were fairly decent. Both of those showed a lot of activity, showing 3.0 earthquakes and more, all around Mount Shasta. Both seismograms, one on either side of Mount Shasta. Both of them very active. Then I went down and found one seismogram at Mount Lassen, and it again was just as active as the two that I saw at Mount Shasta. Okay? There's a lot of data. I wish I had it, okay? But somehow they kept me from pulling it. They do that occasionally. Does anybody have any comments or suggestions or ideas that they want to share with us right now? I'm willing to take questions if any of you have questions. I haven't been able to keep an eye on the chat as much as I would like. Our mods have done a great job of that. Richard Smith says, when all that burning hot junk creeping the earth and wants out, look out. Yeah, you're right. You're right. George Rashad's with us. Thank you, George, for being with us. He says, thanks, Ron, in chat. Got to go fire up the BRB. Going to burn some cow. Just be prepared, not scared. George, send us some of that charred cow. I would love to have some more charred cow, if you know what I mean. That'd be a riot. We appreciate each and every one of you being here with us. Again, we're almost at the 2-hour point. I came on a little bit later because we had some cloud to ground lightning, and we had what I thought might have been at least one tornado, and it's passed us by. We had no more thunder or lightning here since I've been on the air. Otherwise, we wouldn't not even tried to come on tonight. Does anybody have any questions? Demon Cat says, have you seen the massive floods in India? Oh yeah, Dean, I've seen it. Those are insane. The floods, guys, in case you don't know, India's had some great big huge typhoons come into India. Big huge rainstorms, and they have floods to go with it. And some people have lost their lives to those floods and rain that have hit there. It always happens this time of year, always. It's terrible. Tomas is asked, did Western Island volcano eruption have a connection to quakes there? Yes, it did. Iceland had some eruptions. The quakes definitely had an impact on Iceland because they were showing that that volcano was about to erupt, and it did. It did. They actually thought it was going to erupt on the weekend. That was the beginning of the week when it finally erupted. But they had been planning for it for a long time. Okay? So Western Iceland is still erupting, and it's a mad mess. They have lava, red hot lava on the ground over there in Iceland, just like they had at the other volcano that erupted last year. It's a mess. It's a mess. And then you can go to almost any YouTube channel that's showing coverage of that eruption in Iceland. It's unreal. People going almost up to where that red lava is. That's super hot. 2,000 degrees hot. You go too close to that, your skin is going to be charred. Worse than barbecue. Okay? PJ says we're not permitted in the Antarctica. There must be activity there. Oh, yeah, there's activity there. There's a lot of activity in Antarctica. If you don't already know, Western intelligence agencies are all over Antarctica. The CIA, for example, is down there. And yes, we don't much see what's going on there at Antarctica. Yes, we have scientists down there that are down there to assess various health risks, to assess the environment and everything else. But yes, Western intelligence people and agencies from all over the world are there. There is some school of thought that it's not just the intelligence agency, but oligarchs and elites from all over the world are there. Okay? Any other comments here? Carol West says, thanks for getting things rocking and rolling there in Southern California. It's been rocking and rolling for some time. I'm still expecting a large earthquake to hit in Southern California. They cannot continue having the earthquakes they're getting and not having something larger happen. It's a matter of time, literally. Richard Smith says things happened in Antarctica after 1945 and changed the whole history of humanity. Yeah, that's the truth. There are books and magazines on that, guys. There are books and magazines. There are books written even, I think, the last year about what's going on at Antarctica. And they're factual. And I'm surprised that some of the authors have not been arrested for putting the information out. It's insane. Anybody else have any comments here? Any questions? Okay, we've had 109 thumbs up. I'm excited about that. Please, folks, if you have not already given us a thumbs up, please do so. Thumbs up are very important. Thumbs up are very important, as well as comments. Please, folks, if you like what we've done or something touched you in any way, shape, or form, give us a comment down below this video after we go off the air tonight. We'd love to see that. People chatting in chat. YouTube uses chat, they use the comments, they use a thumbs up, they use the number of people that saw our program, they use the amount of time that you watched our program. It all goes in one great big analytical factor to see whether YouTube will let anybody else on YouTube see our program. So please, folks, let's grow this channel. Please help us with comments. Please help us with thumbs up. Please help us watching the program. Don't leave after 15 or 20 minutes. Don't leave. Stay here. The longer you're here, the more chance that YouTube will let other people see this program. This program is just as important as any other news around. I'm trying to give you the latest news that might affect you, each and every one of you. Okay? Yes, I told about shootings here in the eastern United States, Tennessee, and here in North Carolina. Those happen all over the country. All over. Mass shootings, unfortunately. And I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon. Okay? Now today is Thursday. Tomorrow, unless something big happens, I'll be talking about emergency preparedness. And guys, I've got a presentation to knock your socks off for tomorrow night. So please join us here tomorrow evening after 6 p.m. with Emergency Management Associates, talking about emergency preparedness for whatever emergency. Earthquakes or shootings or great big huge rainstorms, hurricanes, snowstorms, tornadoes, whatever it might be. We're going to be talking about emergency preparedness tomorrow night. Be there, don't be square. Folks, I love you. I care about you. I really do. If anything else happens, we'll be back on the air tonight to tell you about it as soon as the information becomes available. Or in the middle of the night, we'll be here. We always are. We've done it before, we're going to do it again, and again, and again. But folks, we're here for you. If there's anything you would like to see, let us know. please let us know. Also, Sunday at about 12 noon, we have another time we come on the air, and it's for a Sunday school class called Come Follow Me, the Savior Said. Starts about 12 noon on a Sunday. We're here for that. Unless there's something else that we need to come on the air for, Sunday school will be the end of it until Monday. But occasionally I do come on Sunday afternoon, evening. So we're here for you. We appreciate you always being here. Okay? Thank you for helping us. Tomas says PJ NATO equals risky game. I believe that. Absolutely. Okay? We had Sweden join NATO officially this past weekend. Finland's already joined NATO. I believe Norway's already a member of NATO. So all of Scandinavia now. So Russia cannot burst those borders and take over those countries as easily as they did during World War II with the Nazis. It was bad news. Horrible. I think I've told some stories about people that I'd met that were there during World War II, and I told you what happened to those people. Wonderful men and women. Wonderful. Anyway, guys, I hope you have a good night and a better tomorrow. I love you. I care about you. More than anything, I care about you and your family's safety and your spirituality. Okay? Every night I try to leave you with an idea, a thought that might help lift you up. Okay? Now, I'm going over to Hebrews. I'm going over to Hebrews, and it's chapter 8, and this is starting with verse 5. Okay? Who serve unto the example? One shadow of heavenly things is Moses. Moses was admonished of God when he was about to make the tabernacles. For see, saith he, that thou make all things according to the pattern shewed to thee in the mount. Okay? God showed Moses how to build a tabernacle and how to build temples. Moses was taught by God. But in verse 6, but now hath he obtained a more excellent ministry, by how much also he is a mediator of a better covenant, which was established upon better premises. For if that first covenant had been faultless, then should no place have been sought for the second covenant. Verse 8, for finding fault with them, he saith, behold, the days come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel and with the house of Judah. Another covenant, another promise for the people. God speaks. God hears and answers prayers. A covenant is nothing but a promise. If we do what the Lord has said, he will bless us. We exercise the first part of the covenant, then the Lord blesses us for doing that. A covenant's nothing more than a promise between us and God. Okay? That's what it is. Brothers and sisters, I love you. Please think about covenants and promises that you make with the Lord, and make them sacred promises, sacred covenants. That's exactly what they are. I hope you have a great night and a better tomorrow. We will be back here if anything happens. I promise you that. We'll be back here to tell you about it. We'll be back here tomorrow evening after 6 p.m. with more of Emergency Management Associates Preparedness tomorrow evening. Have a good night, folks. We will see you on the other side. See you soon, guys. Bye.